the Scrambler 400X might be the best Triumph on sale in India. It's that good. It struggles a bit on highway rides, and there is a very finite limit to how far off-road it will go. But what a capable, enjoyable, and personable motorcycle this is. I know I've said this before, and the more I ride it, the more my confidence in this statement grows. The 400X makes every Scrambler that's come before look half-formed and incomplete. As in, what will the 400X not do? You can get through the city swiftly or lazily. On longer rides, it's smooth and quick up to 105, 110 kilometers an hour. It's also a comfortable motorcycle with a great seat and upright ergonomics. And when the road disappears temporarily, it has a plush, light-footed manner that makes all of that feel easy too. To me, this is what a Scrambler should be able to do. What I miss, less than on the speed, but it's there for sure, is the ability to access the higher rev ranges of the engine without it whining and complaining. See, I love the torque, the gearing, and the smoothness of this Triumph. And what that makes me do is go faster, and then a little bit faster. And then suddenly, pegs are vibrating and the engine's feeling kind of sour. Many of you will worry about the seat height, and the 400X can feel tall, but it's not an automatic deal breaker. Shall we look closer? Most of you will ride this Triumph in the city most of the time. And it does feel larger than the Speed 400, but not unwieldy. And it has one of the best attributes of the Speed built right in, which is the torque and the gearing. Which means for progress, gear shifts are almost optional, and passing traffic is just a matter of opening the throttle most of the time. And you can ride quite swiftly without being aggressive, or you can ride more lazily and have the revs really low if you prefer. And you can rev it out and extract all of its performance. But every time I try it, I return back to under 6,000 RPM because the contrast in noise and vibration is so much that it makes my ride feel less pleasant when I do that. Helping the engine out is the suspension and that big 19-inch front wheel, and they give the 400X a level of absorption that makes slowing down for bad patches almost completely optional, and it will encourage you to just keep going. And even out on the highway, the setup is better than the speed. Think about it like this. If you assume that 55% of all urban roads are broken and people have to slow down for them or avoid them, your playground with the 400X, it just grew 55%. The 400X also makes a reasonably good highway bike, but if your primary intent is touring, then maybe you want to think twice. Not that it lacks the ability, but it doesn't have the flexibility and the latitude that, for example, the Royal Enfield Himalayan will just give you a lot more of. There's no dearth of performance below 6,000 RPM, and select any cruise speed you like up to, say, 110, and it's swift, it's quick, and it can do that all day, consuming very little energy. The 400X settles into a groove that the 390 Adventure today can only dream of. And it's not just the engine. It's the fact that the suspension is supple, composed, and the Speed 400 can become bouncy, but the Scrambler remains connected, you feel plugged in, you know what's going on, and when you do hit bad patches, they don't interrupt your flow. The lack of wind protection will make itself felt on a long ride, but I was surprised at how much it gives the ride a retro flavor, which I ended up enjoying. Plus, it's decently spacious. Now, if I were touring with pillions a lot, I'd still prefer a larger machine physically, like the Himalayan or the 390 Adventure. But for you and your luggage, there is enough space and comfortable seats straight from the factory. If I were planning a long solo trip on a 400X, I wouldn't even need many accessories, just one set of auxiliary lights to augment what's an average headlight at best. And I'd be happy about the 400X's off-road abilities when the road disappears, as in India, it surely must, at one point or another. As capable as it is, I would warn you against thinking about it as an off-roader. The wheels and tires are heavy, suspension travel and ground clearance are limited versus X-Pulse or Himalayan, for example. So don't think about it as the replacement for your dream dirt bike. Let me explain. The 400X uses its suspension really well. It skips over bumps easily. On off-road pattern tires give it a reasonable amount of grip off-road. And bad patches, it absorbs the punishment and makes you feel comfortable. unskilled rider, off-road conditions like me, it makes everything feel easier, and that is great. However, when you become skilled, you'll run into the hardware limitations pretty early because the 400X is at best a soft roader. And that's correct, that's how it should be. It's a scrambler, and a good one. The more technical the terrain gets, the more you'll need your skills because the hardware can't keep up. And this is where the extra suspension travel and ground clearance on the X-Pulse or the Himalayan will make a dent. If you have a 400X, go off-road, but don't go 400X for off-road. Get it? How is it to live with? Apart from Triumph's small network, growing as we speak, there's not a lot different from the Speed 400 on the maintenance front. Service is once a year, but I wouldn't read too much into that. 16,000 kilometer oil changes, they are admirable, but service is still once a year, so making paisa vasool on that interval, it's going to be a lot of riding. Expect to pay 5,000 to 6,000 rupees for the annual service, which over the year brings it into the cost ballpark for this class. Warranty coverage is 2 years and unlimited mileage. And remember, exhaust and battery are not covered for 2. It's just a 1-year warranty for those. The Triumph Scrambler 400X looks surprisingly bigger than the Speed 400. But it's proportionate, it's attractive, and I think it looks very cool. Triumph's attention to detail gives it a level of sophistication and class that now I'm desperate for all of the rivals to just emulate that. Up close though, I can't say that the quality of this Triumph is noticeably better than everyone else's, but man, this is so polished. I love the fact that this great look is backed up by ability and composure and so much feels. There's so much retro scrambler in the 400X experience. It made me wish honestly that the Speed 400 also had a better developed personality. Just for example, the beat and pulse of the exhaust, it gives the 400X so much more presence. All of that together made me ride the 400X more, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. What I wish is that Triumph had kept the smoothness of this motorcycle below 5,000 RPM consistent all the way to the red line. And I would trade in some amount of horsepower performance for that if needed. I can't get over it, and I'm hoping you can, and I'm desperately hoping Triumph is working on this. Because this is a great cup of tea, and 2 sips from the end, a fly falls into it. But as it is, the Triumph Scrambler 400X makes a solid case for itself as a candidate for your single bike garage. It's effortless in the city, decent on the highway, surprisingly adept in off-road conditions, it gives you strong feelings and sensations, and it looks good. If you're in any doubt at all, the Scrambler 400X is a better motorcycle than the Speed. Get a test ride. And what I'm excited about next is to ride this and the Himalayan back-to-back, because I think 2 good motorcycles together, that should make for a really fun story.